in there talking about how you were 50 seconds late.
I know we don't have anybody stating a line saying, "Oh, when time's the show gonna start?" James, luckily we're able to get out and up here before James came in here, but we're here now, and that's all that matters. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. It is the Monday evening live stream where we recap an incredible weekend of college football. I'm joined by largely the normal cast. We have PG, we have Brinsky, we have Jason. Guys, I'm going to go straight down that order. PG, Brinsky, then Jason. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know where the people can find all your great content, and then we're just going to rip the Band-Aid off.
Well, my head's in a trash can because Oklahoma lost to Kansas, the Chiefs lost to the Broncos, and Thunder got blown out against the Nuggets. So I'm having a bad week in terms of my teams going out there and playing well. But y'all can find me at the PG Show, YouTube, Apple, Google, Spotify. We're going to be talking about this Oklahoma team going into Bedlam, and we're going to be talking about USC as well because they're just so much fun to talk about.
Oh, no.
50 to 49. Come on.
Well, I'm hanging in there. I'm about to say Bama had an off week. I'm about to say my Commanders suck as usual. So my fantasy team is winning right now, but I'm trying not to have an anxiety attack right now going to the last day, trying to make this playoff push. And I'm doing good. And y'all know where to find me, Sharpshooters Podcast. Find me out there with the guys. We pod show every Wednesday, so show your love and subscribe to the channel.
Well, I will say this: if there's anything your Commanders do right, it's they let Sam Howell and Landon Thomas get me a bunch of fantasy points.
And I was going against Thomas. He had him as a tight end. I didn't like it. But
I'll say this: in one of my leagues, I'm losing to one of the. I guess I'm Oklahoma this week because one of the guys I'm playing is decided he just want to have a career week this week. I don't know. I'm getting crushed in my leagues, and I'm pissed about it because I was 5-2, and I'm gonna go 5-3.
Do you have D Hop? Because I was about to trade D Hop, and then he just went off, and I was like, the price just went up.
He had Justin Herbert and CD, and George Kittle.
Yeah, never mind.
And I'm Jason, Hall of Fame college football. I'm in the woodshed, as saw Bloody Gun say in there. You can catch us at CFB-pod and at HOFmedia.us. You can always find me on Twitter at JW_HOF also.
What about your fantasy team? You're not going to tell us about your fantasy team?
I don't play fantasy football these days.
Ooh, can we kick him out of the stream?
Well, then I'd have to kick myself out of the stream as well. I don't have a fantasy
team. Shit to do to
see, now that we got name, image, and likeness, we should do ESPN should do a college football.
I can get you connected with someone who does some college football, fantasy football. I know some people who do some great work. I
know somebody who's very good at it too, but I don't have time for it, man. I just don't.
Campus to Canton, I think it is. I've had him on the podcast before. Okay. Good dude. But yeah, I mean, that's who you need to get connected with for that. Now, guys, we got a lot to talk about today. PG, I think we're gonna start this off talking about some USC because I got a question. And listen, I know we have two Oklahoma fans on the panel. We've got Oklahoma fans in the chat. All bias aside, I think this is the most incomplete Lincoln Riley team I've seen in terms of relying on one person. Now, we've always seen a Lincoln Riley team that relied on the offense. This isn't new, but gentlemen, he's not even running the ball at the normal capacities he runs it at. He has a running back that Lloyd is statistically is a top-tier running back in college football. If you look at yards per carry, you look at his effectiveness, he's one of the best in the game, and he's not being utilized. I can't help but wonder, and this is the question I have for you three. Has USC actually regressed from last season? Because I think USC was a more dangerous team last year, or has the pack gotten better? Jason, I see you eager. I'm going to start with you.
Yes, it's regressed. This is not new. This is what happens after year 1, going to year 2 with Lincoln Riley, and going into year 3, 4, and however long he ends up staying there. This is how they roll. When you bring in a yoga instructor to be your strength and conditioning coach, and you fire Schmitty, this is what happened at OU. They got smaller and smaller and smaller. And this is what's happening with their offensive line. This is what's happening with their defense. Is, it's almost not even, I hate to not be the guy that gets on Alex Grinch, because he's god awful. There's no doubt about it. But the one thing about it is that he's not getting any kind of help whatsoever from Lincoln. When you're not running the football, you've got Marshawn Lloyd, who's PFF has him as like the number 2 running back in the entire country. And he's averaging like 12, 13 carries a game at the most. And they're last in time of possession. Or not last, 115th out of 132 teams in time of possession. Yeah, they're scoring a lot, but if you're not even trying to get your guys a rest when they struggle as it is, we know this story. We all know the ending of this movie. They're going to get throttled this weekend. They're going to get throttled the week after that. This is not going to end well for USC. It's just not.
Yeah, you look at it.
You've at least 2 out of 3 more games they're going to lose, and it's because if you're going to give up, they had to score 50 to win by 1 against Cal. Against Cal, they had less first downs. The only reason that they won the game is because Cal had 3 turnovers, and they only had 1. They gave up 500 plus yards. That's it.
You see, here's the thing that worries me, Jason. Cal was the game when I looked at their remaining games, the remaining 4, you were like, okay, Cal is the one you go out there, any little tune-ups you need before, because they have a brutal 3-game stretch. Like,
right.
Genuinely a brutal 3-game stretch. You have Oregon, Washington, and UCLA. That's a tough, that's 3 top 25 teams. That's a tough stretch. Brensky, I'm going to pass it to you. Do you believe this USC team is better than last year's USC team, or is the pack just better? Or both?
To be honest, I would say they digress a lot. I think we got a preview from that Tulane game in the last year, what we was going to see this season for some odd reason. I just felt like that's what we was going to see this season. I believe the Pac-12 has gotten better or whatnot. I wasn't on that hype train early like everybody else on ESPN and all these other sites saying that it's the best conference in football, which is nonsense. But they do have some top-tier quarterbacks. I think they got the best quarterbacks in the country right now. So, but I believe somehow I don't know how they digress. I don't understand it, man. It's just they really depended on Caleb too much, and I don't like how the play calling is going. They're not running the ball. The defense is atrocious. You would think with improvement on the defensive end, I think it's worse than last year's for some odd reason. If Cal is moving the ball on you, you know you are doing bad as a team, and you need to. I forgot the defensive coordinator name that
Grinch.
y'all love to call.
Yeah, Grinch.
Yeah, Grinch.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I thought of Jason and PG when I was watching the highlights. I was like, yeah, man, maybe he needs to be fired, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. If anybody had that type of defensive coordinator, they would have been let him go a long time ago. He must have some on somebody.
Well, Brensky, you raised a great point. If this was the defensive coordinator at Alabama, and for 3 straight years or 2 straight years, Alabama didn't have a top 50 defense, that guy would be gone.
His ass would have been grass.
Gone.
Saban would have mowed it. So,
like,
and we was destroying Pete Golden. So imagine what we'll do to him. He made Pete Golden look like Brent Venables at Clemson.
And it's funny, Brinsky, last year someone asked me, would I rather have Alex Grinch or Pete Golding? And I said, actually, Golding, because at least I think Golding gets too cute on defense. I think the guy has a theory. He just doesn't yet know how to completely get there yet. But like, there are still base concepts that you're like, okay, well, if we strip this down, fine. With Grinch, like, the base scheme isn't working, and it hasn't been working, and it hasn't worked since, I believe, what was that, 2014 Washington State? Because I think 2015, 2016 was Ohio State, and then didn't he come to OU in 17, 18? What was that? Jason, when did he come to OU? 2017, 2018?
Yeah, 16, 17 was his first season at Oklahoma.
Okay, so I'm right in line with my timeline. Yeah, we're talking about 10 years ago, a defense was a top 35 defense in the nation at Washington State, and since then, there hasn't been a top 35 defense. I mean, you don't have to have a top 10 defense, gentlemen. We know this, but you cannot just completely disrespect that side of the football.
Yeah, and that's what he does. That's the whole point of it, is that he doesn't even care about it. He doesn't put enough emphasis on anything other than his offense doing what it does. And even that, and to that end, I mean, dude, he was so obsessed with Caleb winning a second Heisman in a row that, he's literally taking it, and he's not running the football like at Oklahoma. At least he ran the football. They'd get running downhill. You're not seeing that here.
Not at all. PG, same question to you, man. Because I think the answer is a little bit of both. I think it's a lot of both, actually. I think USC has regressed. I think the Pac has gotten a lot better. But I think even if the Pac was still the same, we'd still be seeing a regressed USC team. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's a little bit of both. However, who on here was telling me, Jason, was it you or?
I did not say that they were guaranteed going to freaking beat them. I did not say that. I said if there was a team that they could win.
I probably told you if they lose to Cal, they're in a lot of trouble because they had no business.
If there was a game they could win, it would be Cal. But I wouldn't even be that surprised if Cal beat them either.
Because I'll say this, Cal has the number 45 overall offense in the country, averaging about 422 a game. Cal's got an offense. They have played with Washington. They've played with Auburn. They've played with Utah. Like
you're looking at those stats after they just played USC.
Well, I'm just saying they've scored against other teams. They've moved the ball against other teams. It's not just USC. That's why I looked at this game and I said, oh, guys, Cal, this is going to be better game than y'all think.
I mean, listen. I think if Bama wants to move their offense up about 10 places in the national rankings, we need to get out there to the Rose Bowl, play Alex Grinch, and we'll have our offense raised about 10 plays. No, I kid. You are right. That Cal team is better than I think we anticipate. But even then, PG, you're talking about a defense that if I'm just starting to talk about some names, and I understand names don't win football games, you have Bear Alexander, you have got Gentry at linebacker, you've got Damani Jackson, you've got Branch, like you've got some players out there, but my goodness, whenever you watch this defense, it's like a professional sport and getting gashed.
Well, true, but also Branch wasn't playing in this game. He was on the sideline and on crutches. So, I mean, I don't know how big of an impact he would have had, but he wasn't there. Now, Bear, I believe they made him shed down to under 300, didn't they? Which I think has probably been a problem for Bear because he's not.
Well, I think a bigger problem is he's still been getting pressures. He's been breaking through. I think a bigger problem is they don't have anybody outside of Bear to where if he breaks through and busts a play, like who's coming next? Bear's been getting his, but it's like
Corey Foreman, the 5-star.
They do. I think they do have Corey Foreman. They also got Anthony Lucas, a name that I think he's still got a lot of upside. Anthony Lucas, yeah.
My deal with USC is you have the 111th ranked defense in the country. 111th. Now, I will say this. Total? They do not this year. Lincoln Riley's defense does not get the title of worst Power 5 defense in the country because Colorado is second to last. And I honestly, Alex Grinch would pretty much have to give away these games to achieve that title.
He
That's
almost
how
did.
bad Colorado's defense
almost
is.
Well, I
did.
mean, hey, we got to also remember, look at the offenses absent UCLA. They're going to play. I think there's a strong argument to be made that they've only played one offense as dynamic. Well, even then, I don't know that Colorado – Shadur is unbelievable. But I can't say Colorado's offense is dynamic because the success largely lies in the passing game. You're about to play an Oregon and a Washington team that they get it however they want it.
Well, and I'll say this: Washington's defense is pretty bad too. They're giving up a little over 400 yards a game. So I think USC is going to be able to move the ball. The problem is you've got to be able to. USC is coming into a game where there's a similar team that can play the same style of football as them, but when they want to, when Washington wants to play defense, they can actually get some stops. And I'm not sure USC can play that game. So it's going to be another rough week. And I mean, I think there's a good chance USC loses out at this point. I mean,
the thing that you said about Colorado and the difference between them and USC, at least with Colorado, they just getting their guys in. They just really getting.
They don't
started.
have anything. Yeah. They don't have Bear Alexander.
Well,
they got Bear Alexander and we got Luke. They got 5 stars on that UFC defense.
And I think that's why people aren't hitting the US or the Colorado defense as much this year because it's their first year, 85 new players on that team. But no, I mean, I'm surprised Alex Grinch is still employed as of today. I'm 100% surprised. I don't know why he has not gotten rid of him yet. I don't know if they don't want to do it in middle season.
He has something on somebody. It has to be.
He has something on somebody.
I don't know who it is.
Though, you want to hear the crazy thing? I don't think Alex Grinch was originally going to be the defensive coordinator at USC when Lincoln Riley took that job because Lincoln Riley made a phone call to Brent Venables. Brent Venables turned it down.
Yeah, because he was about to get the OU job.
Yeah, I mean, that's
that
makes sense. I don't think Lincoln Riley was going to take Grinch, so I don't feel like he has something on him because he wasn't. It didn't seem like he was about to take him anyways. It seemed like he was going to go try to get somebody else.
If that's the case, he should have gotten someone else in the offseason.
Alex has been his paid bullet catcher though. Think about it. He catches all the strays for Lincoln. But there's very few people that are actually out there blaming this on Lincoln Riley because it's just a defensive problem as far as that. Watch any of those USC shows. They all say the same thing. If they fire Grinch, it all goes away. We know better than that, but it's not really. And the thing is who are they going to hire?
Well, I actually like Marsh James. I like Marsh James in there. Jim Leonard. He'll be coming off of that surgery.
I don't know that Jim would even want to do that though. If you know that you're not going to have a guy that's going to help your defense out in any way, shape, or form by staying on the field a little while,
you don't need to. If honestly, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm coming in and I'm telling Lincoln Riley, listen, I barely need you for recruiting. I might need you for some big 5 stars, but that's about it. I don't want you to have any control. I don't want you to say anything about the defense. I'm going to come in. I'm going to take full control over it, and we're going to get it back to where it should be. And I think Jim Leonard, I don't know. I don't think Jim Leonard I don't think he'd be a head coach somewhere yet.
You're going to end up making him look bad, as though you're going to make a guy like Jim Leonard look bad because you can't freaking even do simple things like, have a decent special teams unit or do anything whatsoever. But the strength and conditioning, no defensive coordinator is going to want anything to do with that strength and conditioning program. Nothing. It's just not, it's not conducive for anybody who wants to have a winning unit out there on the field to go in there and take that job. I don't care how much money it is. I don't think there's a way in hell that Jim Leonard takes that job.
Well, let me talk about this comment right here because someone asked, didn't OU extend Grinch in 2020? He was being paid around $1.8 million at OU as one of the top paid defensive coordinator. If they did, that was a mistake. If they did, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Because listen, whether they did or not is of little importance to me when I have such a large sample size. At this point, we're not talking about a defensive coordinator who's only done this for 3 years. If he was in year 4, I would be up here defending him saying, guys, it's still early. I know it hasn't looked good, but that's not the case. We're talking about his last defense that really put him on the map was that Washington State unit. And that had to be back in 2014, 2015, because then he took over Ohio State. That didn't work. Oklahoma for several years, now into the second year at USC, and the defense is still bottom 100 There are only 131 teams that are ranked. How are there 100 teams with better resources than USC to go get high-quality defensive play?
They're not. And here's the thing, though. I don't think 100% on of this defensive problem is on Alex Grinch because, and I've talked about this with Oklahoma a little bit, and I feel like we're going to have to talk about the same thing with USC, which is your offense is running so fast and you're not giving your defense an opportunity to break sometimes that this offense is going to look bad consistently if they can't get enough breaks on the sideline. So your offense has to be able to control the clock enough to waste 5-6 minutes off the game clock sometimes, or 4 or 5 minutes, and give your defense a rest. Lincoln Riley teams have never given the defense a rest. So this defense is out there playing over 100 snaps a game. What do you expect? They're going to get tired. They don't have the competitive depth. We saw that at Oklahoma. You're seeing it at USC really quickly. I mean, I don't think 100% of this needs to fall on Alex Grinch because there's some game management in there as well that I think is inhibiting the defense from being a little bit more successful.
I don't disagree, but I've also here's what kills me, PG. I watch so many times, right? Alex Grinch's defense relies on a lot of stunts, and that's all well and good. We see that, but so many times they stunt right out of the hole where they need to be, and then boom, huge play. And it's like, I mean, it's something that was talked about at Oklahoma. It's something that continues, and I don't know the answer to it, but listen, it's something has got to change because right now USC has gone through this year asking for Caleb Williams to win them games, and it's been tough because the Pac-12 is better. And some of their toughest tests, I actually think their toughest tests yet are still in front of them. Because I think Oregon and Washington are better than any team they've played thus far.
UCLA might be USC's best chance at a win just because the UCLA quarterbacks are not very good. Now, I think Dante Moore will be a very good quarterback in year 2 and year 3, but he's a true freshman. He's made a lot of mistakes, but you would expect that from a true freshman. So UCLA is the only game where I say, hey, they have a potential chance to win that. Problem is UCLA got a damn good defense.
Exceptional defense. Exceptional defense out there.
I mean, that just might work in UCLA's favor right there and work against USC. So that one will be one we'll have to watch towards the end of the season. But yeah, no, I mean, they're going to lose to Washington. They're going to lose to Oregon. I have no doubt in my mind. I would bet a whole paycheck on both of those games. I mean, that's kind of where we're at. I mean, it's this is the season that Lincoln Riley tried to avoid at Oklahoma that caught up to Brent Venables. You know, Brent Venables came in to the year that Lincoln Riley was supposed to have.
Yeah,
we agree on that. No doubt.
And I don't think enough people talk about that for Brent Venables' first year.
So speaking of Oregon, who had the better win this weekend? Oregon versus Utah or Georgia absolutely dismantling Florida in a rivalry game? PG, we're going to start with you.
I think it's Oregon. I don't think Florida is there yet to compete with the likes of Georgia. I did think that game was interesting because I wanted to see what Graham Mertz was able to do with that passing game because they've got that who's that wide receiver that they got that was on 3 5-star, but he wasn't ranked a 5-star everywhere else. And
Eugene Wilson.
Yeah, the dude's talented. And I was curious to see exactly, was Billy Napier going to be able to draw up enough creative plays in the passing game to beat Georgia? But I think Georgia has heard a lot about them not being able to defend in that part of the game. And I think they've tried to take a step up now. Oregon, though, you played a very good Utah defense. I mean, Utah's defense is one of the better defenses in the country. For Oregon to go up, put up 35 at Utah in Utah's home game winning streak. Honestly, I was talking to Cooper about this. If you have a 1-loss Oregon or a 1-loss Oklahoma looking at the playoffs, I'm picking Oregon all day long. Oregon is one of the top 4 teams right now for me in the country, even with 1 loss, even over an undefeated Washington or maybe even an undefeated Florida State.
Well, I think that one of the things That'd be interesting. That would be interesting. I'd have to look at the rest of Oregon's schedule, but theoretically speaking, if Oregon was able to stack more ranked wins,
they've got USC this week, or no, they got Cal this week, USC next week, at Arizona State, and then they've got number 16 Oregon State to end the season, and then they'll likely play Washington in the Pac-12 championship again. So they've got 3 potential top 25 teams and another top 10 matchup in Washington.
and you know what, Steven? I sure haven't. It's
That's
about
for
time
OU
for that
fans.
Shady Mile style. Guys, as always, Shady Mile, sponsor of the channel. They have their Shady Mile Rye, Shady Mile Wheat. I always talk about this. The thing that stands out about Shady Mile, one of the oldest distilleries in Kentucky, a state synonymous with whiskey, and they give it to you at an affordable price, which is why I'm so excited to work with them. If you have an opportunity, you absolutely should pick up a bottle. Steven got one. He very much well enjoyed it. As you can see, we enjoyed it this past weekend with the fights and the games, and so it's been treating me very well. Brinsky, I'm going to ask you the same.
He's an awesome
Steven,
isn't he, Steven G?
He's the best. Steven's the best. Steven's the best, man. I love that guy. Brinsky.
Shout out to Bucky's.
Shout out to Brinsky. Best win, Oregon or Georgia? Because I think this is a little bit closer than we're giving this credit for, guys, and I'm going to explain why when I have it to my turn.
To think about it, how important the game was, even though I knew Georgia was going to win, I would say Georgia was a better win than Oregon versus Utah, because Utah really got exposed by Oregon. I don't think Utah is all that cracked up to be like we trying to make them. They all cracked up to be when it comes to USC, but everybody else, they did have a bad loss before this. But Georgia, this was a great win for them for the most part, because the East is so tight this year. And there's no wiggle room for any mistakes, because now they have Missouri coming down the line, and then they still have Tennessee. So it's really coming down to the end, and they have Ole Miss. So I'm going to say Georgia right now. Well, I'm going to say Georgia, period. But I believe Georgia had a better win.
Jason, to you.
To me, it's Oregon. I think that generally speaking, they've struggled to beat the teams in the conference that they needed to beat. Now they didn't go up there to Washington and get that win, even though they had plenty of opportunities to do so. But when you figure, I mean, 2 years ago they lost to them twice and badly in the championship game of the Pac-12, and then in order for them to stay in contention, they had to win this game. This was an elimination game. You had to win it. So in order for them to, have a chance that even if I think that either way, they might have still had an opportunity to get to the Pac-12 championship, but it would have been a lot harder. And no matter what, if you don't win that game, the Pac-12 championship doesn't get you to the playoff, which is where they're clearly trying to get to. I think that Georgia, either way, they were probably not going to lose another game. And I don't think that, I think that most people didn't expect for Florida to win that. But that being said, having the fact that they hadn't played anybody really all season, it wouldn't have been a good way to lose. You can't have them losing that one if you're Georgia either. But still, I think being the fact that it was an elimination game for the Pac-12, I think, and the way that they went in there and did it, although I understand that they were playing a backup and stuff, that didn't keep them from beating USC on the road. So, to go into Rice-Eccles Stadium and win that game, that's big for Oregon.
I think because there wasn't no Cam Rising, like what Eric D said. That's why I don't think it was too much a big win for Oregon. I understand everything what you guys are saying. Pretty much any team that has one loss right now is basically you can't afford another loss, or you're basically not getting into the playoffs. But yeah, Cam Rising is a big part of that offense, and it's really, really showing this year, because when it comes to these big games outside, I think they have one more big game. I think they're going to lose another one. I'm just not high on Utah this year than last year.
That's
So
interesting.
let me jump in here because I think Josh Pate hit the nail on the head talking about this Utah-Oregon game. And he said, do not be disenfranchised into believing that Utah has found themselves offensively. They haven't. They found a bad USC defense. That's what they found.
True.
And I think that's 100% correct. Now, there's no taking anything away from a Kyle Whittingham coach team and that Utah defense. That Utah defense is great. And I do think there's an argument to be made that can we even consider Cam Rising the starter at Utah anymore? And now understand what I'm saying. I'm not arguing that he isn't the best quarterback in the room, but he hasn't played a game this season. So at a certain point, who you're playing is your starter.
If he comes back, like if he's healthy, he comes back, he's the starter. He is the most talented quarterback in that room. So if he comes back, he's the starter. So
sure, but he hasn't played a game this year.
Consider him the starter for that team.
He hasn't played a game this year.
He probably would have been rusty, though, is what Ty's talking about. I mean, coming back in there, are you sure you even want him to come in that game to go up?
I think if you play him in that game, it's probably a one-score game.
Listen, I hear you.
I would expecting a lot of a guy coming off the freaking street, basically.
Here's the thing, man, because I hear what you're saying, but this isn't game 3, game 4. I mean, this was week 9. I haven't had him for 9 weeks. Here's why the Georgia win stands out to me. And listen, this isn't to down the Oregon win because this is very difficult. And I do think that there's a winning argument depending on how you view it. Gentlemen, nobody's talked about the fact that Brock Bowers was not there. And this is a Georgia team that almost lost to Auburn. If they did not have Brock Bowers, that game may have gone very differently. This is a Georgia team that a lot of college football has questioned. Is this the same Georgia as last year? The offense hasn't looked the same. The defense is still very good. I think they're having a normal regression when you lose all that much talent that quickly. I mean, their defense is still hyper impressive when you take that into consideration. Georgia went to a rivalry game in Florida and beat the brakes out of a top 50 defense. Now, PG, to your point, the Utah defense is better. Listen, there's no arguments from me here. That the Utah defense, that's not where I have any contentions with Utah. I knew
Utah
that
got them too.
Yeah, well, Utah got them, no doubt about it, right? No doubt. But I think Florida's been getting better as the season has gone on. Now, that's not to say, Jason, that I would take Florida over Utah if they played now, because I still think that there are some issues at Florida. But we also have to admit, Mertz has been much better than I think anybody. Before I put that on any of you,
Utah game either.
He wasn't
the problem in the Utah game either. No,
not one little bit. I did not expect Mertz to be as good as what he has been this year. He has been an answer for the Gators. He hasn't.
But he's a good quarterback. I just think he needed weapons around him, and Florida has been able to put weapons around him. The problem is Florida does not have the talent yet to compete with Georgia.
No, but the thing is neither should Auburn. And they were running with Georgia. And PG, you have been the first to question and point out how you believe Georgia will get caught.
They're getting caught this week. They're getting caught this week, baby.
But my fault.
No, Brinsky, by all means, go ahead.
But the difference between like Florida and Georgia game from that Georgia and Auburn game, they was in Jordan Hare. Jordan Hare is just a whole nother beast in his own.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a different monster. Now, if Auburn played on the road in Athens, that would have been the slaughterhouse. It's just something different about playing in Jordan Hare.
Well, and this might have been, and I like how you make that point. This might have been a closer game and when I say closer, Florida might have scored 27, 30 points if it was at the Swamp versus 20 at Jacksonville. But I mean, Georgia's going to get caught by somebody, and I think it's this week. I think Missouri is going to catch them big time. I think it's after a rivalry game. Missouri's offense is phenomenal. I love their offense, and they're still a top 40 defense in the country. I think there's a serious chance that Georgia goes, it's just Missouri.
Well, they also have the recipe in terms of a downfield passing attack. Not saying they will, but they have
don't have
the
to
recipe.
worry about Brock Bowers.
True. Now, Jay, I'm going to pass this off to you. Same question. Best win.
Jay.
Oregon or Georgia?
This week?
this weekend. I think it's close. I think there's an argument either way, but who are you taking, Georgia?
Oh, man. So, no, you're right, because that Florida debacle, dismantling that they did at the world's largest outdoor cocktail party was definitely something that we had been waiting for Georgia to give us. I mean, Beck went out there and put up a borderline masterclass. He looked phenomenal. Oregon played against a Utah that struggled to score points against, hold a second, wait for it, UCLA. Nah, 100% Georgia.
Except
100%
UCLA's got a defense, Jay. They got one of the best defenses in the country.
Yes, they do.
Okay, well, Utah failed to score on Oregon State.
Oregon State's got a pretty good defense too. I mean,
So
where is Oregon State's defense? I know it's not a bad defense.
I'm pulling it up right now, actually, while we speak.
It's number 38 in scoring defense. So fair. I mean, it's not a bad
it's
defense.
fair.
That's
It's not
fair.
bad. Now, like, Oregon State didn't allow people to score too many points, but my point is, if Utah had Cam Rising and Oregon did that to them, I would 100% say that Oregon's was probably better because Cam Rising is a monster. He can lead a team on his own. We've seen him do that against USC. And I mean, it's not saying much, but you're going up against the Heisman Trophy winner back and forth. You're doing it. But then, of course, his third string backup, that's a walk-on, did the same thing to USC that Rising did. So I take USC out of the equation. Oregon's got a real defense. I mean, UCLA's defense isn't bad. Like, I'm not saying that they're like, you know, they're just, you know, they're chopped liver.
Yeah,
they're not telling them chopped liver, but they let Oregon State destroy them. I'm going with Georgia on this one. Georgia put in work on Florida. I'd have to go with Georgia. I mean, Oregon.
The main thing that I was looking at is, again, the elimination part of it. You're eliminating a team from consideration from the CFP and basically the Pac-12 championship game too.
Yeah, Oregon's going to win that Pac-12 championship. I talked about this on your stream, Ty, Through the Haze. I mentioned that Oregon's Dan Lanning has sold me. He has sold me as a coach, as a motivator, as a recruiter. He's doing his entire staff. They're doing some masterful work up there, and he's bringing Oregon back to prominence. And he's also got a physical team. So I think Oregon wins the Pac. If Oregon played Washington again on a neutral site, I think Oregon is a 1 to 2 point favorite in that game. I don't think it's a pick 'em.
Yeah, I talked about this, that I just judging the way that the two teams have played after that game. And Jay, you know, for the past year, I've been championing Washington. I mean, that has been a team that captivated me. The way those two teams have played after their meeting this year, I think Oregon's playing better right now.
Yeah,
they're just playing a better brand of football right now.
Oh yeah, much better brand, much better brand. And then and Blood, Eric, I don't know about this ranking here. I say that only because, until Ohio State beats Michigan again, I'm not putting Ohio State above Michigan.
Their offense is hot garbage.
Whose?
Ohio State.
Oh, I mean, you know,
it ain't that good.
Say that.
It ain't that good. Kyle McCord is not the answer out there. But this is the thing that I have a problem with. And Eric, you're not the only person that's done this. Georgia has won 2 straight national championships. I don't care how Georgia is playing. Until they lose a game, they are the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah,
I got into this with Josh Pate last year, and he asked me what they do so far. It doesn't matter. They have won national championships. They did
to be the man
2 years in a
row.
row.
You got to beat the man,
and they have not lost. They have not lost. So Georgia's number 1. I think Florida State 2, Washington 3, Ohio State number 4.
Well, I think this is a perfect time to segue into this. Did the AP poll get it right? You have Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Ohio State 3, 4 at Florida State, 5 Washington, Oregon at 6, 7 at Texas, 8 Alabama, 9 Penn State, Oklahoma sits at 10, Ole Miss at 11, Notre Dame 12, LSU 13, Missouri 14, and Louisville at 15. That's as far as I'll go.
Top 15 is good.
Please let me get this first.
Yeah, by all means, Brinsky, hop in.
This poll means nothing.
True.
It means absolutely nothing because the college football playoff rankings are coming out tomorrow. I've been so tired of the AP for the past 2 weeks. I'm like, I don't care. Alabama is not even ranked. None of this matters right now. The real poll is coming out tomorrow. So
let me jump on that then. And Risky, I'm not negating what you said because for the most part you're right, but the committee does take the weight of the AP to determine when it comes to their ranked wins and losses, how they put people in the college football playoff. So to me, post week 4 is really when the AP poll is important because that has that influence on what we're going to see Tuesday night when they unveil who the top 10 teams are in the full top 25. They're going to take credence on what the AP feels about some of these teams because in a lot of situations, you're right, which is why I like that the AP poll is so many different people because some of these people's voting tendencies make absolutely no sense.
Zero sense.
Zero. No. Like everybody's been ripping up that Emily lady, and I feel really bad for her, but at the same time, she put herself out there like this. I mean, you're voting for teams to be ahead of teams that we just watched them beat literally like the day before. Like you literally yesterday, you watched them lose a game. And you're saying, well, you know, the one that got me was she did that, I think, with Oregon, Washington. I think she did that with Alabama, Texas as well. But the Oklahoma one's what everybody was confused with. It's like, well, if they would have beat Texas by more than 3 points, then I would have considered them going forward. They beat them by 4. So you said more than 3 and it happened, and you're saying that it didn't count still.
That's rough.
On a neutral site.
That's rough.
We're not talking about a home and home. If it was a home game and we won by 4, I totally understand. You know what? I still think Texas maybe. It was a neutral site game, which the next time we see them will be a neutral site game. What are we doing here? Let's be realistic. So, yeah, some of the voting tendencies don't make sense, but I think if anything, the thing to pay attention to the way the AP is set up today is this will heavily influence what it looks like come the committee. I think it's going to probably mirror this, except for between 5 and 10. There may be a team they think is better than the rest. They may move up and down, but that's really about it.
I'll be curious what the College Football Committee thinks of Oklahoma because they put them at 10 in the AP rankings. And Oklahoma the past 2 weeks hasn't played well. I mean, UCF game, I'll be curious to see how the committee looks at it because Kansas and Kansas State both 100% deserve the ranking they should be. I think Kansas State should have been ranked before they beat Oklahoma. For some reason, Kansas just does not get the benefit of the doubt because they were bad for so long. I think everybody's got the skepticism like maybe they're just not the team we think they are. Kansas is a very good football team. Oklahoma State's the question I have about with Oklahoma because Oklahoma State's not in there. I know they lost to South Alabama, but they're doing just as much right now as Kansas and Kansas State are. So my question is, where do they put Oklahoma? Where do they put Oklahoma State?
That's a good question.
True. And Dominic, that's a good point here. Real quick, I think that it should. And Ty, we talked about this numerous times that, you know, sometimes if you beat a team, it doesn't mean that you're going to beat them the next time around. Sometimes the better team doesn't always win. Sometimes the team that guts it out wins. And I agree. That has to matter when you're setting up your initial rankings. I think that is most important. Like, I would not put Alabama over Texas right now just because we've seen them play on the road and won the game. If they have the same record, I'm going to put one ahead of the other just because we've seen them play each other. Same thing with Oklahoma and Texas. But some of the things to really consider, though, is would Vegas make them a dog or not? Like right now, everybody's saying that Texas will be a favorite against Oklahoma. I don't believe that. I would believe that they would put them a favorite. Well,
if Quinn Ewers is healthy, then I would put Texas as a favorite. But right now, no.
I don't even think that if he's healthy, they would. Just because of how we muscled them in the trenches. Now, I think it's going to be based upon injuries, but I don't see it. Personally.
So, Jay, here's a question I have, right? Because I don't disagree, but it does pave the way for an interesting conversation.
Right.
So, because you said that if Alabama and Texas had the same record, you'd give the head-to-head to Texas, which I don't disagree with. And then you said the same thing for Oklahoma. So what happens if Oklahoma and Alabama then have the same record? You see what I'm saying? Because then
you run into that circle. You
get into this.
Run into that circle. Yeah. And that's the hard part.
So we have a starred comment from earlier. And And Corey asked, do we think Oklahoma can still make the college football playoff if they win the Big 12? And yes, I think the answer, Corey, is yes. You do need help, right? Like a lot of teams right now need help. Luckily, that help will be given. When I say that, the Big 10 will take care of itself. Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, they will cannibalize each other. That will all take care of itself.
Yep.
The Pac-12 will take care of itself with Oregon and Washington. That'll work itself out. The Big 12 will take care of itself with Texas and Oklahoma, and the SEC will take care of itself with Georgia still having to play Ole Miss, Bama playing LSU, and then ultimately if Alabama and Georgia play in the SEC championship game, that takes care of itself. The hard part is what happens if you have a bunch of one-loss teams that have won their championship games, because then you're going to have to look at ranked wins.
Yep.
How many ranked wins did each team have?
Yeah.
Now, are we
I
talking
agree.
about ranked at the
Ranked
time?
wins.
Because again, Kansas was not ranked when Oklahoma played them.
Well, you didn't
but
win.
Kansas was. I mean, Kansas is. I mean, they are a.
But
top
you didn't
10
win. So that wouldn't work in your favor no
I
matter
guess
what.
we didn't win. Gosh dang it! I'm just auto draft. I'm just
Yeah, you didn't. So that wouldn't. If Oklahoma won out, you'd have 2 ranked wins.
Yep.
But here's the thing: if Alabama won out, they'd have the win over Tennessee, the win over Ole Miss, the win over Georgia, the win over LSU, and even if LSU, that's 3 ranked wins. That's where this gets really hairy, and I don't know what the committee does. This is going to be amazing.
There's only one. Okay, so I've looked at this scenario, and the only one-loss team that I think would for sure get in over Oklahoma, like there's no question, it's Oregon. That's the only one-loss team that I say if they're sitting there at the end of the season, Oklahoma's going to have a hard time getting over.
I think Oklahoma would have a hard time getting in over Alabama because
I
Alabama
don't
would have
know.
so
I don't
many
know,
more
man.
ranked wins.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know because I think Oklahoma looks better than Alabama.
Oklahoma has a worse loss, and they don't have ranked wins.
Yep. That's
Correct.
that's my problem I have
freaking
with
Alabama.
the poll. That's the problem I have with the poll before.
It's not me
before
counting
week 4.
Tennessee, Hank. They're literally ranked. That's not me
yeah.
But the
counting
thing is,
Tennessee.
though,
That's a fact.
Is penalizing a team for having to play the schedule that's in front of them. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
But that's college football. That's how it's always
is the
existed.
committee going to take into effect that Oklahoma had to substitute Georgia for SMU this year on their schedule because they're going to the SEC?
Yeah, but then are we going to pretend that we pencil in the winner of that game? Because in order to do that, you'd have to
Well,
assume...
I'm just saying, like, the point I'm trying to make is Oklahoma tried to schedule a tough schedule this year, and unfortunately, because of how the landscape of college football,
But we're now giving points for something that didn't happen. That's not what college football is built off of. It's built off of
Exactly.
what
Yeah.
happened.
It's not. It's about what the results on the field. You can't do anything about that. And I get what you're saying, PG, but results on the field is what's important. And so the unfortunate, and this is why you will always hear me complain about any rankings before week 4 of the season. We don't know what any of these teams are. Teams are getting credit for wins against ranked teams that shouldn't even been ranked to begin with. It always happens every year. It's usually the first 4 weeks where you usually see the most get screwed. And yeah, you're going to get that. Unfortunately, that's the game. So now, the College Football Playoff Committee does take in consideration a lot of that stuff. This team may have been ranked, but they shouldn't have been ranked, so we're going to throw them out.
True.
They do consider more. And I think that that's the thing that helps, but it also annoys a lot of people with it. It's like, oh, well, we have a ranked win. They don't care. Did that team really suck? Yeah, that team sucks. They technically shouldn't have been ranked anyway, so we don't count that as a win. So, but overall, you're right, Ty. Alabama would get that because they have more ranked wins, and there's a little bit more credit given to the SEC.
So since we're playing hypotheticals here, if Alabama has those 4 wins, let's say Texas is another top 5 team when they play them in the Big 12 championship and Oklahoma beats them again. Do those 2 top 5 wins for Oklahoma matter more than Alabama's 4 ranked wins?
Bama would have beaten Georgia, which you just said is the number 1 team in the nation. Best win.
Yep.
And they have a ranked loss. OU didn't. I mean, Kansas.
Okay, but then should Georgia get in? Because now you're making the argument that a one-loss Georgia might be above Oklahoma.
No, because they lost their championship game.
But are we sure the committee would do something like that?
No,
because
I don't know that.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
don't know.
Because we're talking about a one-loss. We're talking about a number 1 Georgia losing to Alabama. I could totally see the committee going, hey, you know what? Michigan, Florida State, Alabama, Georgia, let's go.
And we're playing a lot of hypotheticals here, but this is the beautiful situation about this.
Unless Florida State's undefeated, I could see it being Big Ten and SEC in the playoffs.
I mean, I think for Oklahoma, you don't need as much. If you're Oklahoma, I don't think you need as much help as people are thinking. Oklahoma just needs to go out there and take care of business. Meaning, you need to go out there and you need to beat the brakes off your next 3 teams
Hank,
that you play. You need to go out there. You need to beat Texas in the Big 12 championship, assuming Texas is there. If you can get Kansas State, then shoot, that'd be even better. Even though I don't want to play Kansas State, and you just need Oregon to not be there. I mean,
Hank,
I think that's what it takes.
Well, hold on, PG. Hank, I understand you might not agree with my take, but fight me on my premise, right? Like, don't just reduce it down to it's an SEC bias. I've offered up a premise, and you might not agree that Tennessee is ranked, but you said Tennessee. I didn't say Tennessee is ranked. I can show you the AP poll. If you go right now, who's the number 19 team?
Tennessee's a ranked team. They deserve to be ranked.
Hank, who's number 19 in the nation right now? Let's just answer that question, and then because I didn't put them there. But Tennessee is.
Ty's very
19.
upset that they're ranked that high. By the way,
I don't know that they should be, but I'm saying they are ranked. Like that's not a biased thing by me. I didn't put them there.
Ty, can you leave Tennessee alone, please? Stop picking on my volunteers.
And Hank, I'll tell you this: Tennessee deserves to be ranked, but they're also going to get tested because they have 1 loss Mizzou. They have to go 2 1-loss Mizzou and 2 Athens.
I don't think they're going to end up ranked. I'll tell you that right now.
Like they're going to lose one of those 2 games. Like I promise you
Fair
that Tennessee will take care of themselves.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I was just going to say, is it a ranked win if they're not ranked whenever the end of it comes around, though? That's the thing.
No, it wouldn't be considered a ranked win if they're not. So, like, if Tennessee loses, then that's not a ranked win. But then Alabama would still have the Ole Miss. I don't know the LSU will be ranked. They'd have Ole Miss and then the SEC
LSU will be
championship
ranked.
game.
See, this is why I don't like the ranked win BS, because at the end of the season, like you could have beat. What if Kansas? We played them first game of the season. We beat them, and Kansas goes out there and only has 2 losses at the end of the season. Like that wasn't a ranked win at the beginning of the season, but Kansas only had 2 losses.
That's right.
Like
no, it's fair.
This is why I hate the ranked win BS, because it doesn't actually give the team credit for the quality of opponent that they won. We're just looking at it and saying, well, they weren't ranked at the time they played them, but they could be ranked at the end of the season with 2 losses, and all of a sudden that win looks a lot better in our eyes.
If it ain't week 4 and they're not ranked in the top 10, I don't think a ranked win should count. That's always been my premise.
Unless it's Georgia.
No.
I get where you're going with that, Jay. I can see the logic behind that.
Because you've got so much fluctuations, because we don't know who these teams are the second season around. You know, after last season, they give them a preseason ranking because of whatever reason. You don't know what that team is. Like, we can give Georgia that because they're the defending champs. Can't argue that. Honestly, I would give it to the playoff teams. I would put them up there because we still don't know what they look like. Even if they're going to lose a lot of players, we still don't know. And then from there, let it work itself out. Once week 4 hit, then you'll know for the most part what you're looking at. And then you'll get to the college football selection, which is tomorrow. Then you'll have more data at that point. But it kills me because, I mean, PG, you're right. A team could lose to start the season. Oregon did that last year. They got shellacked by Georgia, but then they went on a full-fledged run the rest of the season.
Hank, Iowa State might have 5 losses at the end of the season. I don't think they still got to play ranked Kansas, which you better hope if you're an OU fan that Kansas wins that game, because if Kansas takes that loss, you didn't lose to a ranked opponent anymore. They got to play Texas and they got to play ranked Kansas State.
Yeah,
I really hope Iowa State pulls it out for me against Texas.
Win out.
Yeah, you got to have Kansas win out. So
which Kansas has a good chance to win out. I mean,
they really do.
They do. Bean's
but their quarterback is still Bean.
See, I like Bean, Jason.
I don't think Bean's bad. I just know that we have him because I've seen him play against. I mean, I saw him play at Oklahoma State.
I would say I think probably Kansas running the table, then Tennessee finishes ranked. Dominic, like I'm not going to lie about that. Yeah, I think.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, Kansas has got a really favorable schedule. Like, I mean, the only stumbling block that Kansas has that I just look at and say they're going to struggle would be the K-State game. Otherwise, it's at Iowa State, Tech at home, and at Cincinnati. Iowa State's not that great. Their record does not really give you the whole story. And then Cincinnati's just been awful in Big 12 play.
Yeah, the KU
Actually,
rematch would be great.
all of them has been awful. That
newbies.
that are new to the Big 12. They're all awful. They've shown.
But I mean, if Oklahoma goes out there, they win these games, these next 3 by 30, 35 points a game, they beat Texas in the Big 12 championship, I don't think they have a problem getting into the playoffs.
Well, here's a very real scenario. If LSU falls out of the rankings, if Tennessee falls out of the rankings, then you do have we're going to have a hell of a conversation if you're the committee about who you put in, because then it gets really interesting and it gets to be a lot of fun.
This is all assuming that Oklahoma goes through the rest of the way undefeated and wins the conference championship, of course. But I don't know that you can do that whenever they just lost to Kansas this weekend.
I think, again, we're thinking about Kansas being this bad team. I don't think Kansas is as bad as everybody thinks they're. Everybody's got.
I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm not saying that they're bad, PG. I'm telling you that they should not have won the damn game, and they did. And you've got to be better than that if you're Oklahoma. And there's no guarantee that they're going to do that. They still have to go on the road to BYU at night. I know that BYU should not give them much of a problem considering who they're, considering the fact that they haven't been that good.
BYU
they've been decent, but they haven't been good in the conference. But it's still a possibility. This weekend isn't necessarily going to be the easiest game in the world either against Ollie Gordon. He's been going freaking nuts.
It's not, but Oklahoma's going to put up points against this Oklahoma State.
I agree with this, but I'm telling you that Oklahoma better come up with. They have to get there first, and after what we just saw. And the way that they're calling plays out there, and I know we're going to get into this in just a few minutes. I'm not guaranteeing anything.
Ty, can we go ahead and shift into this conversation?
Yeah,
because again,
100%.
I don't think it's 100% the play calling. After really sitting down and thinking about it and talking to Cooper and Jay, I don't think the problem is necessarily 100% play calling by Jeff Lebby, because Lincoln Riley did some jet sweeps and things like that too when he was here.
No.
Hold on. I know Oklahoma fans don't want to hear this, but I think this is a personnel shifting issue more than a play call issue, meaning you're shifting out your offensive line so dang much they can't develop a chemistry together. And you're not putting your best guys out there. And on the same thing for the running backs, you aren't putting your best running backs out there week in and week out. There is no way for them to develop a chemistry with that offensive line. And I think that's causing the majority of the problems. Jeff Lebby is not stepping up and telling these coordinators, this is who we're playing. That's end of discussion. You want to do somebody else, you talk to me. You don't just make this decision in the heat of the moment because it's not working.
So let me jump on that real quick. PG, and this is why I want to stop you real quick on that. You're not wrong. Jet sweep isn't a bad play if you're running the ball consistently. You don't use the jet sweep as a replacement to your run game. That's the problem. That's where the play call problem comes in. He's using it as a replacement to the run game. Gavin Sawchuk went out there and was getting 8 yards of carry on that first drive. He did pretty good. We ended up we threw that pick six. Boom. Next drive, we got Jalil Farouk as our running back.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the problem.
Sawchuk got 5 freaking carries, 6 carries.
Go ahead.
These guys are getting you had as many carries between the receivers as you had as those two receivers as you had between Sawchuk and freaking Barnes. It's ridiculous.
And that's a Lebby decision.
One thing, I know. That's what I'm saying. If one thing is for sure, if you're going to continue running the jet sweep, just like and I'm going to go ahead and steal this from Ty, you better be building it into something else. And they've run that same freaking play for a year and a half. They don't even change the freaking formation, for God's sakes, and run it. If Gavin is on the field, you can bet that the jet sweep is coming. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. If you're going to at least go to something else, or, make it look like it's going to be that and run a draw somewhere the other way, do something else, so that they don't know exactly what's coming. Otherwise, I think we should have seen the very last of the freaking jet sweep this week. The last of it.
So,
well,
PG,
and I'm not
I get what you're
play
saying.
call's not the only thing wrong here. I mean, like there is a portion of this being play call, but I think so many people have looked at the play calling and said this is the problem, and
It
it's not
is.
the problem, guys.
It is the problem. It
No,
is.
I,
It 100%
no, I
is.
don't agree with that because this
100%
offensive
is.
line, it is not functioning the way that we looked at it and said it should function.
If the offensive line isn't functioning very well, then you don't need to be running plays that's going to have guys that don't play a lot pulling and making,
making moves that they're not good at doing.
That they're not good at.
He's putting them in very unsuccessful spots.
Absolutely.
That's where the problem comes in. If your quarterback, who is on the list for the Heisman Trophy, this is, and you said this perfectly, PG, this is stuff that Lincoln Riley would do. You've got a guy on the Heisman Trophy list, and you're not going to let him use the ball and take the ball and do his thing. That's a coaching problem. Lincoln Riley did that to Baker Mayfield against Georgia in the freaking Rose Bowl. Instead of putting the ball in the Heisman Trophy winner's hands and saying, keep running that score up so we can go play in the national title, what'd he do? Put his foot on the gas, started handing the ball off, hoping that he could run the clock out. He was coaching to not lose instead of winning the game. That's the problem. You don't run jet sweeps whenever they're pressing the wide receivers because basically you're throwing it to the corner. The corner's right there. You're putting your wide receivers in uncomfortable positions. What you want to do is, if you're going to run that jet sweep, make sure that safety's already scared that you're going to blow the top off of them again. I don't care if Dylan Gabriel completes the pass. Let him throw it 20 yards just to get the safeties to back up, get their attention. No, they were playing cover zero and pressing our wide receivers. And what were we doing? Running a jet sweep.
After
That's why
the
they were
first
getting
quarter,
stopped
they
in
were
the
in
backfield.
cover 3 base.
Yeah, that's why you
They dropped
saw
the safety. Yeah,
exactly. They just kept pushing up. That's why every time Gavin Freeman was running that over there on that jet sweep and Jalil Farouk was running it, there was a corner waiting for them. Why? They're pressing. You can't do that's how you're going to be unsuccessful every single time on that play.
My problem is all season I have had to hear it's play calling, it's play calling, it's play calling. And I've said it's running game, it's running game, it's running game. You lost to Kansas, you're right, because the play calling was not where it should be. But also the adjustments on your personnel all season long have not been it. And I'm telling you, I don't think Bill Bedenbaugh and DeMarco Murray are talking to Jeff Lebby about these personnel shifts. I think they're just doing whatever the hell they want out there. And look at what you're turning out with. These running backs, they don't have the chemistry with these offensive linemen to figure out where their holes are going to be and when they're going to be there. So yes, the running backs are not patient enough, but they also have no clue when the holes are going to develop because they have no chemistry with these offensive linemen because they switch them out way too much.
I get that. That is a piece. That is a component. That is a component. I agree with that.
But I don't think the play calling's been the problem.
But the problem,
Kansas is still the problem. But I don't think
play calling
all year.
The play calling is still the problem. Is that we're not using a wide receiver who has half as many touchdowns as he has catches this season. We're not using him more often. But that's your problem.
I'm not talking about just this game though. I'm talking about
every game too. I'm trying to figure out why Nick Anderson ain't got 50 catches already.
Yeah, Nick Anderson had freaking 1 target this week. 1. And you know how many he had last week? Like 2.
Yes. This is the thing about it. And this thing about it, PG.
How many balls did he
catch
in the freaking Red River game for that matter?
This is the thing about it. In a lot of offenses, and you'll hear this, they do this in the NFL as well. They create certain plays where the quarterback doesn't have to think. This is the play, boom, boom, throw it to this guy. We don't have enough of those where we're just feeding the ball to Nick Anderson. We don't have enough of those where we're just feeding the ball to Jalil Farouk. We should be going deep.
We all have a lot where you're feeding it to Farouk. I think that part of the issue is y'all aren't liking.
We're not throwing it to Nick Anderson more. Period. But think about it. We need to get to Nick Anderson more. Force feed the ball to that dude, and then we saw and this is on DeMarco. Tyree Walker should have started this game. But the thing is, Gavin Sawchuk's first run, he got 8 yards.
Yep.
Then the next possession, we literally threw the ball to Farouk. We ran the ball with Farouk. We ran the ball with Farouk. We threw it to Farouk.
You know what it looks
like? After a while,
to
you
me,
get predictable.
Just from watching, it looks like Lebby has almost more faith in Farouk finding the holes and using patience to let the blocks develop than he does Sawchuk.
His running backs. Exactly. Because I'm looking at the play-by-play, next possession, pass to Farouk, 2 yards. Farouk run 3 yards. Pass to Farouk 6 yards. What? And then Farouk returned the ball.
Yeah, no.
Then they put Gavin Sawchuk back in the game after we got the first down.
I like to see Gibson getting more looks too.
I have a lot of questions about this game. PG, I think here's where I do agree with you. I don't think that Lebby has been the issue all year. I think that your lack of a running game is something I've brought up multiple times and something Jay and I have talked about, that was something you had really well last year. You just haven't had it the same this year. And there are multiple reasons why. It's part of the reason why when y'all did play Texas and there is a history of the team that rushes the ball better in that game wins, I was inclined to go with Texas because they had the better rushing attack up to that point. That is an issue. And PG, I think you're right. Whenever you talk about how the constant shifting of the offensive line, you're right there. That's bad. But
yeah,
then
you're right.
For Lebby, you have to understand I can't be doing a bunch of jet sweeps and stuff if I have a brand new offensive line unit. Like that then falls on the play caller. Now, in this Kansas game, don't get me wrong, I think there is quite a bit of blame to go around. Right? Mm-hmm. So, Jay, one of the things, and Jason, I said this to you, that last Kansas drive, 1 minute and 56 seconds left on the clock, they drive down the field, score to win the game. Now, when I first watched the game, it was easy for me to sit here and say, oh, well, that Oklahoma defense had been on the field a lot that game. And that's true. But you know what also is true, guys? Oklahoma's offense was gifted short field possession, got a touchdown to take the lead, and Kansas drove right down the field and got points. Yep. So Kansas driving the length of the field wasn't exactly a one-off. I mean, they averaged over 5 yards a pop. I'm not saying the defense won the game or lost the game. Lebby lost the game. The defense won sequences that should have won the game.
Definitely.
But you also gave up over 200 yards on the ground. I understand Kansas is a good rushing attack, but Bean was not completing 50% of his passes. That right there was a contributor. And Jay, we've talked about this. The Brent Venables defense this year has been out of its mind in the red zone. I mean, genuinely one of the most fun units in the country, offense, defense, special teams. Brent Venables' red zone defense has been unbelievable. One of the most fun units. But 20-20 teams have found success. That bend but don't break. Well, it bent and it broke more than they wanted it to. A lot of that is because the offense gave Kansas short field position, which is why I do say at the end of the day, Lebby lost this game. But guys, I said this in the green room. Venables is an aggressive coach, right? Like one of the reasons why I love Venables so much in his defensive scheme is because he's aggressive. But for such an aggressive coach, why do you go into half with 3 timeouts?
Well, see, and I'm glad you're saying it because I think so many people are so focused on the Lebby situation. They're not talking about just the poor coaching overall because Venables made several mistakes in this game at halftime, not taking the reins and saying, we're going to go score. And then towards the end of the game, when the ball was on the Oklahoma 46, Kansas had a 4th down, and you decided not to call a timeout to get your defense together because Danny Stutzman's not out there to do it for you. I guarantee you Oklahoma would have stopped Kansas if he would have called timeout and got his defense together.
No,
yeah,
I don't disagree with you there. This was a bad coaching job across the board. The thing, though, is as Ty mentioned, and I understand your defense of the coordinators doing what they want to do or the position coaches, they've done that this entire season.
I get it. And I'm saying after this game, I really had some time to think about it, and I really think that's part of the problem. And I think Jeff Lebby, people have gotten upset because some games he wants to run the ball a lot, and I think it's because we see the stats and we see we should be able to run the ball on this team, and he wants to get the run game going. And I think people are forgetting we don't have a run game right now. So if you have team,
we had one this past
the odds
game.
Tell you if you can run the ball on this team, go run the ball and try to establish your run game so that the next
we ran for 269 yards.
This is their best rushing game yet. What are we talking about?
We ran The second one was Texas. We ran for over 200 yards in there, and Dylan Gabriel had 100 and something by himself.
And
the problem
that Texas
is
defense
that
is amazing.
Yeah, but I take Dylan Gabriel out.
Exactly.
I take Dylan Gabriel stat. I take Dylan Gabriel runs out of that.
He
because
needs to
You
run the
can't.
ball, though.
You
He's a
can't.
key component of getting everybody else available to run. He has proven that. He did it against Kansas. He ran it for what, like 20-something yards, almost 30
100%.
yards when he
100%,
followed the
Jay.
block.
Absolutely.
We've done that. We do that. The problem is Lebby will not dial that up.
He's scared
He
to do
won't
it, and
dial it
that's
up.
it doesn't make any sense that you would do that when this guy has carried them the whole year on.
He's carried us. He's carried our offense this year. Period. Point blank.
Period. There's
Period.
no
He's
way
carried
around
it.
So
With
why
all
would
of his
Why would you
imperfections.
not have any faith in him after that? Why?
Dylan
Why
Gabriel has
that
carried this
way?
offense.
That doesn't make sense. Why he would not love?
Hold on, let's ask again. I want to hear her explain whatever it is she wanted to explain.
No, Siri can't talk about her. She needs to shut up. She knows better than that. But anyway. But the thing is, PG, and I agree with you. The problem with the offensive line is Bedenbaugh won't be consistent with who's going to be out there. Caden Green needs to play now. I get
Yes,
not
he's
wanting to
good.
play freshmen. Me and Ty talked about this.
Screw
the Proctor
that.
situation
Screw that.
would bother me there, and I say this about freshmen a lot. It takes some experience for them to understand the mistakes. They make mistakes in experience, and that experience makes them better long term. Caleb Downs, I love what he's doing right now, but I did not like him starting so young because he had so much of a responsibility at that strong safety position. That's too much weight on a freshman, even if they're, a generational talent. That's why I also like that Brandon Hall's not playing Peyton Bowen that much. He's letting him learn from experience so that he's not exposed, because teams will key on that. He's a freshman. Do this. You will confuse him the first time. The second time you might not, but the first time you're going to get something, and a lot of times it leads to big plays. We need to go ahead and just let Caden Green play the guard position at this point. It's a done deal. Troy Everett's getting beat up, and it's all because he ain't got the muscle yet. He's going to get there. Smitty's going to get him to where he needs to be, but Appalachian State obviously showed that they weren't preparing this boy to play in the Big 12 or in the SEC. He needs to hit the weight room. Caden Green is ready. He's shown that he's ready. You got to be consistent on an offensive line. So, PG, I agree with you that the other coaches also take blame. The problem is you got a quarterback that could probably carry you through this, and you let him only throw the ball 19 times, and his opponent threw it 32 times in the same weather.
I get
Throw
that,
the ball.
but I'm not
Throw
making
the ball.
the argument though that Lebby was the problem from just solely play calling. I'm making the argument that Lebby's the play calling because he's not being a CEO of this offense, and he's letting
He's
letting
he has
other
last
people
call.
choose.
He has last call on this stuff. Now, Venables lets his position coach be able to push back, but Lebby has last call. He gave them that. That's the reason why Lebby came here to take the money. He got more power. It's kind of like why Sam Presti is still the general manager of the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's because he's an executive VP, and literally no one can question him but the ownership.
And
He
if
has
you
that
know,
call.
and if you know your offensive line is rotating, because PG, you're right, but the issue is we get back to this right here, and this is my moot court. Just like somewhere, Dr. King, if she ever sees this, she's not going to spritz me with the bottle, but she will say,
gonna spritz
"But
you."
if not for some of the inconsistencies in the play calling, Oklahoma wins that game. But if not for the understanding that you don't have a consistent offensive line, so why are you using the jet sweep?"
That's what CEOs do. They when they oversee their spots, they don't get to see every single move that's done, but they recognize where the inefficiencies are, and they're like, okay, we can't do this. We need to do that instead. Or
But
I need to
obviously not
change
telling
this
them that
position
because-
of where we're going based upon where the market is telling me we need to go. He's not looking at that way. That's the problem. He ain't looking at it like
You got to
that.
adjust.
You got to adjust based upon what personnel you got. You know that there's inconsistency in the run game. There's inconsistency in line because of injuries. You know that attrition's going to hit. Why don't you just put the ball in a dude's hand that's actually done pretty good for you? Yes, he has 4 interceptions this season. He has 4, which is like the second lowest in the SEC for players that have played at least 6 games. He's got 4 interceptions. That pick 6 was bad because he just was thinking. And Ty, when I went back and re-looked at it again, I talked to somebody else about it. They were like, yeah, I think that might have been a play for a right-handed quarterback. That might not have been built
I'm
for
telling
for a
you,
left-handed
the route
quarterback.
progression doesn't make sense.
didn't
Your
make sense.
6-yard hitch
Right.
can't be because by the
That has
time
to be
you
the
get over,
first one. That
by the
has to be
time you
first
get
one.
to it, it's too late.
Nick Anderson was going to be that safety pulled up.
It
Nick
was
Anderson
like
was going to be
it was a
deep.
touchdown.
He should
Go
have thrown
back
it
and
deep.
rewatch it, Jason.
Just throw it deep to Nick Anderson and see if he can get underneath it. It may not have worked, but guess what? It wouldn't have been a pick six.
But
it felt like the progressions was go to Farouk if you see the safety move. That's what it felt like.
Y'all missed it.
It felt like he was told to do that.
I hit up Jay on Sunday, and I was like, Jay, I feel like I might be an idiot savant, and I need to talk to somebody. And I was like, this play, it doesn't sit right with me. And it was like, I was like, the progressions, like, they don't make sense. This feels like it was a play call for a right-handed quarterback, because if you think about it, he would have had the 6-yard hitch right after play action into the 6-yard hitch, right as Farouk plants that foot, boom, if you want to throw it. Read number 2, Stoops on the slant. Okay, all great. When Stoops came on the slant, the safety that was charged with staying back stepped forward. The other safety was already looking like he was playing underneath. I don't know for certain, but he certainly bit hard enough on the play action that it would make me believe he was already probably charged with covering underneath, so that was probably what he was going to do anyways. Well, by the time you get to read number 3 is Anderson on that deep post for a touchdown. And that's why I was like, it doesn't make sense for read number 1 to be deep post, then slant, and then 6-yard hitch.
So on that, what I thought about that read 1 being that this is only where I differ with you, but I'm on the same page as you. I think read 1 was that post to see where that safety was going. And like you said, as soon as you saw him bite, you should have pump fake to Farouk and throw it deep to Nick Anderson. They all would have bit.
100%. Listen, I don't.
That's what I mean. So yeah, I see what you're saying with
Let me modify.
Who should have been the first one. But yeah, that first look was safety. Is he biting or is he going to stay back? Because if he stays back, you go boom, boom, boom. What it might have been, but I think you're right. It should have been a right-handed quarterback going fake.
Yeah, read
1,
from right to
2,
left.
3.
Boom.
Yeah, it felt like a right to left play. It's weird.
Felt like it was designed for a. And here, let me modify my statement, Jay, because I do believe you're correct. So it doesn't make sense for the hitch specifically to be where you end up in the progression. Because even if you're supposed to go back to that post, wouldn't you, I don't know, like that hitch, it's just an odd route to have as number 3. And maybe I'm completely overthinking this. That could completely be true, where I'd talk to somebody and they'd be like, it makes sense. But at the same time, it doesn't sit right with me that
I see it.
Because that whenever people said, oh, well, Farouk, he should have came back more. And maybe, but the thing is he didn't ever expect that ball to come to him after he was that far. Those comeback routes, guys, the reason why DG and Tua are so good in the RPO system is their timing. That's what made that interception so weird, because DG's timing in the RPO system is so good. The reason why I bring up timing, if we talk about timing when you're throwing that hitch, that ball's got to be coming out right as Farouk is planting that foot before he's turning. Like, because that's a long throw for a left-handed quarterback. Throwing across the hash to Farouk, that's a long throw. That's an NFL throw. I know it doesn't seem like it. That's a tough throw. It was just an odd play. Not a decision Dylan Gabriel. I think if he gets that one back, he never throws that ball again. It was an uncharacteristic mistake. But Brinsky, I am so sorry, my man. We
went off the rails.
Off the rail.
When Oklahoma guys start talking, you just let them have it.
Yeah,
we appreciate it.
Talk to me, Brinsky. What'd you think watching this Oklahoma game? Where do you think the blame lies? Because I think that we can talk about a lot, but ultimately, man, for me, it's the offensive play calling just killed it, in my opinion.
I think the play calling in a way, but I really believe that delay messed them up. Well, the delay actually helped them come out. They came out strong or whatnot, and you think they were going to be firing on all cylinders. But it just seemed like right after halftime, I don't know what type of play calling was going on, man. To be honest, they should have won this game by 2 touchdowns. But I don't know. They just laid an egg in this game. It was just one of those games that you're supposed to win, but you lost. It's just one of those games.
Everybody has them. Yeah. Jason, go ahead.
The only thing I was going to say, I mean, there was plenty of that kind of stuff. My feeling is that BV needs to get a hold of the whole situation. This isn't just a Lebby problem. It isn't just it's if there's a breakdown in communication going on between Lebby and his underlings on that offensive staff, then BV needs to get a hold of it. This is his football team.
Can I say something about that, Jason?
Sure.
I do love, whether we believe it or not, whether we agree, not believe it. Whether we agree with Brent Venables or not, I do love him falling on the sword after that game.
Yeah.
He said, no, this one's on me. Whether you agree with him or not, I don't think that's important. He is a young coach who is perfectly willing to shoulder responsibility. And the reason why I like that, there's a trend. Coaches who are usually able to shoulder responsibility are coaches who don't mind being wrong because they realize it provides a unique opportunity to learn. And Venables seems like that type of guy from the way he talks. So that is, I want to throw it back to you, Jason, but I did just want to say, whether we agree with his assessment of it being his fault or not, I like him falling on the sword because that's a leader.
I like him falling on the sword too. My problem is that if you're going to do that, then you should go and make sure that they're doing what you want them to do. And I think that this is part of his learning curve of where he needs to step up in this situation. He's still a new head coach, man. He's still a new head coach. And in this situation, I can guarantee you there's no way that he likes all the trickery crap. That end around constantly. There's no way he likes that, particularly when you've already gotten Tawi running between the tackles and doing very well like that.
I really like Tawi.
Freaking tackles. Just do that. And I mean, that's all you have to say. Hey, I don't want to see that shit anymore. Simple. I do not want to see receivers in the backfield, nor do I want to see the jet sweep anymore. Stop putting it in. It's a simple thing.
I want to see the jet sweep whenever we're actually running the ball good. Let me see a running back get 50 yards, and then you can give me some jet sweep. I don't mind the trickery of the mix-ups whenever we're seeing success in that position. But again, Gavin Sawchuk had 8 yards on his first carry, and we didn't do it again. I'm trying to figure out why we need to keep doing that. Just run it down their throat. Again and again.
I don't.
We saw Oklahoma State do it.
Listen, I don't think that the issues are the jet sweeps inherently. I think it's the use of the jet sweeps to, like Jay said, try and supplement a running game instead of complement a running game. That's where I was just like, what are we? You have the middle.
Problem when everybody knows what's coming when Gavin comes on the field. If we all know it, so does the defense.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Well, it's one of those things where I'd expect at some point you lull them to sleep. And we just haven't seen that, right? Where you send Gavin across 5 times and he never takes another jet sweep. And on the 6th time he does take it. Well, that defense has now been like, well, he's not going to get it. And then boom. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Guys, we've been going for an hour and a half. I'm going to go ahead and ramp this down because I got to eat dinner. Y'all got to eat dinner. It's time for some Shady Mile style. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm talking about get some bourbon.
Shady Mile rye.
Some
I'm about to go pack my suitcase and get ready for this final trip before the holidays.
Some Diet Coke and some Shady Mile. You know what I mean?
I love it.
I don't know about a Diet Coke.
Yeah,
I feel you there.
For what happened for me is I stopped drinking. I tried to stop drinking anything with sugar.
Shout out to Buc-ee's.
And then it got hard. Shout out to Buc-ee's. There you go.
NIL coming soon.
That'd be awesome.
Hey. No, it ain't. Don't say that, Ty, because it's all A&M. Unfortunately.
Oh God, no, you're right. Oh no. No. Boycott.
You don't want that.
Boycott Buc-ee's. Bad Buc-ee's. No, out of here.
Bad Buc-ee's.
Out of here.
Hey. What's the matter with y'all? No boycott.
We're not doing no A&M
Buc-ee's
stuff. That's the problem.
Buc-ee's.
I love Buc-ee's, man.
Before I let y'all go, my brother came from Oklahoma. My brother came here whenever I got married. All right, and he's from Virginia. He's never seen a Buc-ee's, nothing like that. You should have seen my little nieces when they walked in Buc-ee's and they didn't know what the hell to think. And I mean, I don't know if y'all have been to the one here in Denton, but that thing is always a mess. So it took them an hour and a half just to have the whole experience. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to have a Buc-ee's in your city, but it's also a curse. I'm both very happy it's here and very unhappy that it's here.
Yeah, they just built one in Auburn.
Ooh.
Sure
And when I
did.
tell you, oh my goodness, game days are crazy.
Have you gone?
Yes.
Yeah, that.
I went
damn
to the
first
when I was
time
in
going in
Tuscaloosa.
Georgia. I didn't even know what a Buc-ee's was
You know
until my
now.
friend from
Yes,
Houston
bro.
told me about it. He said
Hey,
it's a
I'm
big
telling you, I'm
thing
going
in
to get us
Texas.
all a sponsorship from Buc-ee's, man. We need to do a 30-minute segment on Buc-ee's and everything that, that's great about it. They have a barbecue pitmaster in every store.
I'll tell you this. One of the times we were on a moot court trip in San Antonio, it was St. Mary's Law School down there at San Antonio. We stopped at the Buc-ee's on the way, and all the moot court team, we pitched in our money because we had like that per diem that UNT provided us for meals. So we all pitched in all the extra money we had, and we bought a full-size cheesecake, but we couldn't eat in the vehicles that UNT had provided because they were super hardcore about that. So we all sat in a circle in the middle of a Buc-ee's parking lot and ate cheesecake, passing it around. And I know that they probably thought we were a bunch of idiots, and they're not wrong. We were a bunch of idiots, but we were idiots with cheesecake. So take that.
The first time I went in, it was only a couple of years ago. First time I went into one of the massive ones, I was like blown away. Blown away by it all.
Ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
It's like heaven, bro. It was like heaven. Yep. Yeah, you're saying no to the drinking game there, Jay?
No, we're not saying Jet Sweep is not going to join that. No, we're not doing that, sir.
That's what I said.
No.
I said it about 10 times.
No, you know what? We are doing that. And every time you do, I need you to take that shot of your Shady Mile. Shady Mile.
I need to go get me some of
that.
that, Ty, so I need to come down there and get me some.
So that you forget about your jet sweeps that keep you up at night. Shady Miles. Memory loss.
Yeah,
One of the
I keep
beautiful
waiting on my
side
bottle to
effects.
show up. They don't have it around here, so
You're gonna get up there to Dallas and get some from Ty.
Yeah, you need to come on down. Come on down.
I'll be there soon.
All right, guys, you already know what time it is. Go around the table, let everybody know where they can find all your great content. We'll start with Jason, then straight down the line.
Hall of Fame college football with Jason and the coach. You can find us. That's at CFB-pod on YouTube. You can find all of our stuff at hofmedia.us, and then on Twitter it is at JW
_. Like 4 times.
Just once, bro. Just once.
Fair point.
But I forget it myself, bro.
See, that's what I'm saying. You didn't change it and forgot it. Oh.
Jay?
I'll go last.
Oh, you go last. Okay.
He didn't remember. He didn't remember.
You know, I got a toothbrush in the back room, man. I'm good.
Okay.
Brinsky?
Well, of course, I'm Brinsky of the Sharpshooters Podcast, your humble and gracious host over there. Shout out to my guys as always. Definitely follow me on Twitter at B_sharp and B_sharp5 on IG. Just the number 5. Don't spell it out. And make sure you subscribe to the Sharpshooters Podcast, and shout out to the guys. We're definitely going to have somebody on this show on there very soon. Shout out to Jay. Jason, we're going to definitely get you on there too.
I'm waiting, man. Shit, I'm waiting for the invite.
And me and Ty were just talking about rap last week. He's going to love the show, man. It's super laid back, man. It's not your typical show. We talk about some of everything, but I know these guys going to have a great time. So,
hey, how'd you like that Nicholas Craven project I told you about?
I can't lie, man. You put me on something.
Got him.
That thing is.
Hey, man, Ty knows his hip hop, man.
I
That
am
joint
hooked.
is smooth.
I am hooked.
Jay, as always, man, take us home.
Y'all know me. Y'all know what it is. Jay Smith, Unfair Sports. This is my second home. I mean, I've got a spot in the back room over there at Ty's. My toothbrush is still there. He said he threw it away. Come to find out he did, and it just got misplaced by the cleaning lady. So we cool. I didn't have to lose my mind on him like I was about to. But you know where to find me, Unfair Sports, here on YouTube, as well as whatever podcast to download and listen to. Always love being on here with Jason, Brinsky, as well as Ty, man. It's always a good time. Wipe your feet. Tell him, Steven.
Yeah, wipe y'all's feet. All right, guys.
Your feet.
Enjoy your week. I know all the guys here got a busy week of content. Jay will be gone on vacation, but let me tell you what, when I tell you the man has got you, he's got y'all covered. Let me tell you what.
Whew, I've been recording. I'm all sweaty thinking about it.
A lot of stuff going on today there, Jay. You got the
Oh my
whole week's
God.
worth of stuff recorded today.
Already, I'll
He's
be
been
back on
working.
Saturday with even more stuff. I'll be watching the that game. I'm just we gonna pray that it don't turn out.
I will say this though, guys, I'm waiting for something to happen on any of our shows that tops that high top moment from this weekend of the dude
Oh.
throwing
Puked?
up.
Oh, bro,
That was the funniest clip I've seen in
100%.
so long.
I was crying laughing when I watched that dude crying.
It's the
And then
best.
I watched it again this morning. Same thing. Still crying laughing. I couldn't help it.
Did you
Hilarious.
just throw up?
He puked on his freaking shoes. Awesome.
Okay, guys,
That's
we gotta
good
go.
TV, folks. That is good TV.
That's so funny, y'all.
Glorious.
We'll see y'all next time. Take care. And then we got the spinning wheel of doom, and it just